This is Corpus Linguistics and Applied Linguistics Research 2024, and this is the second talk of the 2024 edition. This is sponsored by the University of Murcia and the Faculty of Humanities, Facultad de Letras at the University of Murcia, and by my own research group. As usual, let me tell you about our YouTube channel, where we sort of store and keep some of the talks and events that we host. So this is free to check out for everyone. In this edition, we have fantastic speakers. Last week, we had Shelley Staples. Next week, we have Professor Hadley, and the last talk will be Dr. Cristobal Lozano in 2 weeks' time, if I remember well. We started this thing in 2021 in the middle of COVID-19. Then we moved on to a kind of online event in the 2022 edition, and we had a post-COVID-19 2023 edition as well. As you can see, we've been trying to cover some areas of corpus research and the interplay between corpus linguistics and applied linguistics. And this is why today we have Professor Inma Fortanet with us today. Inmaculada Fortanet teaches in the degrees of English philology. That's how we call English studies in Spain, and also business administration, and also in the Master of English Language for International Trade at Universidad Jaume I in Spain. She has been, or she is, I'm not sure about this one. Inma, are you? But okay, you've been Vice Rector for International Relations at this very same university, and also she's been Vice President of the Compostela Group of University that happens to be an important hub of universities, research-intensive universities in Spain. Her research looks at academic English, business English, CLIL, and the multimodal analysis of this course. Professor Fortanet has published widely, and it is impossible just to choose even a selection of her research. But I'd like to mention here 2 of her latest chapters and papers. The 2022 paper on pitches, from the analysis of pitches, product pitches from a multimodal perspective in the ESP classroom, and the 2024 chapter on multimodal analysis of a CLIL lecture, a multimodal approach. This is why we have Professor Fortanet with us today. So again, I want to thank everyone that is here today, but especially I want to thank Inma for her generosity, for her time, and for giving us the chance to know more about her research. So I will stop my presentation, and without further ado, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for devoting some of your valuable time to watching my presentation and listening to me. Well, and thank you also, Pascual, for your introduction. First of all, I have to say that I'm the co-leader of GRAPE, the Group for Research on Academic and Professional English at Universidad Jaume I. What I will present today is the result of joint work by the members of this group. At this moment, we are working on 3 funded projects by projects funded by the Ministry of Education, by the regional government, and also by the university. Well, what I'm going to talk about today. Well, first of all, I want to make a short introduction about what we understand by multimodality. Then I will talk about what we do with multimodality in GRAPE, in our research. Then I will explain to you a little bit about the tools that are used to analyze multimodality, and especially the tool that we have developed, GRAPE MARS. After that, I will introduce briefly two applications of multimodal analysis. Usually, our ultimate goal is, as we are researchers, but we are also teachers, to apply multimodal analysis to our teaching. So I will show you two examples of research carried out in the group in which multimodality is applied to pre-tertiary education, specifically by means of reels. And in the second example, multimodality is applied to the assessment of case study presentations at a master level. Finally, I will give a hint on how multimodality can be related to corpus linguistics, as is the main topic of this series of lectures. So let's start. What we understand by multimodality? Well, in general, a general definition is that a multimodal ensemble is a communication unit. So according to Gunter Kress et al. Meaning resides in the combined effects of the orchestration of the modes in the interaction between what is said, what is shown, the posture adopted, the movements made, and the position of the speaker and the audience. So multimodality is an approach used to understand the contribution of various semiotic resources, verbal, visual, oral, and spatial, to communication. But even more, what multimodality does is to decentralize any resource in the communicative event and in its study, and emphasizes the importance of combining all the semiotic resources, which are called, in this field of research, multimodal ensembles. Each of these multimodal ensembles has its own affordances and also constraints. Well, when we do multimodal discourse analysis, as I said before, we are always thinking of our other half, that is our role as teachers. And so we understand that in educational context, language is necessarily entangled with other semiotic modes. And that's how we have to look at it. So we have to look at language as multiliteracy in all kinds of language teaching and training. So we have to look at the linguistic literacy, disciplinary literacy, academic literacy, digital literacy in the case of digital genders, as we will see later, visual literacy, and multimodal literacy. Now, once I have explained what we understand by multimodality, what do we do with multimodality? Well, in the last few years, especially from the beginning of this century, I would say, especially in the last 10 years, printed science and professional communication has been replaced. I was going to say slowly, but it's not slowly. Sometimes it's quite suddenly replaced by digital science and professional communication. So nowadays we have digital platforms and digital genders. And in these digital platforms, there are more and more ways, different ways of communication, such as academic blogs, webinars, or online YouTube videos. And these have been also the object of research in our group. Nowadays, we have students that need to be multimodal literates, as Lim and Tanxia say. So we need to help them to acquire this new competence. Well, among the digital genders, it seems that videos are in right now, as young people would say. Well, we all know that young people are very familiar with real stories, with YouTube channels, with TikTok. And so we asked ourselves, could we use those also as pedagogical material? Well, first of all, let's analyze what the characteristics of these genders are. They are multimodal. And there are three main types of modes: embodied, disembodied, and filmic. What do we understand by embodied modes? Are those modes that are expressed by means of our body. So there's speech, speech complemented with paralanguage, intonation, pitch, pauses. There is eye rapport, the posture of the speaker, the head movements, facial expression, gestures. But there are also disembodied modes, objects that we can see in these videos, the clothing of the speakers, for example, the actions that the speakers carry out, or fixed images that may also appear in the videos. And then filming modes, because most of these videos are edited. So there we will have different types of shots, different angles. We will see background. The video recording will have cuts. There will be visual effects. There may be text inserted in the video, and there are also sound effects and music. Now, when we have already seen all these elements in a video, we need to find tools to analyze multimodally. And so which are these tools? Well, in previous research, we used freely available software or software that was available in the market. And we used programs such as ELAN, Atlas TI, or multimodal video analysis. But we found these programs had some limitations. So we decided to make this analysis by means of a focus group with several researchers who had been using these tools, and asked them which were the limitations and how these different programs could be improved. So what we obtained was that annotation could be optimized. How? First, with automatic transcription. Transcription was a nightmare. It was expensive, it was slow. We had to find somebody to make the transcription. So automatic transcription would be very good for this research. Also, the merging of layers. So as we will see, annotations is done in layers, but there could be merging of layers from different projects, or even the duplication of these layers. As for the analysis, it could also be improved by being able to watch several videos. For example, in an interview, it is important that we can see not only the person speaking, but also, for example, the reaction by the hearer. Also the frequency and density. So sometimes, depending on the variables, it's more important to know how often a semiotic mode appears, and some other times it's more interesting to see how long it lasts. And also to find results of patterns of a full video or specific parts of that video. And finally, the representation was also very important and not so varied in the programs available. So it would be ideal to have several options for visual representation of data, such as bar charts, pie charts, radar charts, or balloons. So we found, we applied for funding, we made a project, applied for funding, and obtained funding from the regional government to create MARS. So what we did was we contacted a company providing software service, and we told them what we want. So this is the result. I'm going to describe it briefly, though I invite all the people who are watching this to go. You have a QR here where you can have access directly to the program. So GRAPE MARS, multimodal analysis research software, so that's what MARS stands for, is a web-based, free and open source program which is compatible with all operating systems using Google Chrome. So when you go to the program, what you first see is a brief description of it, and then the reference by which we would like you to cite the program. Then you have a PDF with a user guide. You also have a video tutorial, and then you can have access to GRAPE MARS. I also recommend you to have a look at this very, very recent publication that we have done in the journal TASEL. It's well, unfortunately for those who do not know Spanish, it's in Spanish, but we promise there will be more publications on Mars, also in English in the near future. So this is the first page that we find in Mars. We go to the workspace and then we see select a directory. So what we have to do is to create a folder, simple folder, give it a name, and then select it, because that's where everything, all our work will be saved. Then you will see this page, and here you have to write a name for the project and also a name for the library, and you will have to upload 1 or 2 videos and then create. When you create a project, then the videos are processed automatically. So it will take maybe a couple of minutes or 3 minutes, depending on the length and depending on how many people are doing the same thing at the same time. But usually it will take a short time to process the video. And when the video is processed, you will have access directly to well, you will see the video, which has been processed by means of artificial intelligence, and you will have automatically the transcriptions and the audio waveform. So one of the questions that had been raised by the focus group has already been answered. So it is possible to process the video automatically and to get the transcription. Of course, transcriptions are not perfect, but I must say they are very good, if the sound is good, of course. And there's the chance by clicking on the transcription to edit it just in case there are parts that have not been understood properly. Well, the next step is to go to the workspace and go to the library. Here's where the taxonomy is introduced. That is the variables of the analysis. In this program, we have 3 levels of variables. That is the category, which is what is tagged in colors on the left-hand side. Then there is the annotation, which is for example, here, paralanguage, gestures, gaze, etc. And the sub-annotations. In this case, we have gestures, and then with automatic color coding, we have the sub-annotations, that is the type of gestures. And there, you can also introduce a description of these sub-annotations. All this can be exported as a template to other studies, so that you can use the same taxonomy, the same library for other studies. And this is what we see in the workspace. We go to project and we see the transcriptions. Well, if you click, you get all the transcription, but this can also be hidden. And then you can make it bigger, the image bigger or smaller. And you have here audio wavefrom transcriptions, as we had seen before, which were automatic. And then we get all the taxonomy of what we want to analyze. After that, you need to do the tagging, the annotation. And so you play the video and you can stop it or play it slowly so that you can introduce the different annotations or sub-annotations. When you click on it, sorry, this was not the program. When you click on it, then you have a menu and you can choose the sub-annotation that of what you have seen in the video, what you have heard, because there's, in this case, it's prosodic. We have long pause, stress, changing topic, stress, etc. And then we do all the annotation. And after that, we go to analytics. In analytics, what we have, well, all the data is exportable to an Excel file, to SPSS, whatever other software you need, maybe for statistical analysis, for example. And what we can see here is quantitative data that give you the frequency and the density. So the frequency is the number of occurrences, and the density is measured by the time that is devoted to each one of the variables. This is an example of how it is represented. So here we have balloons. We can see the representation of also of bar charts, of pie charts, radar chart, and all these can be exported to your research article, for example. So up to here, we have seen what we understand by multimodality, what we do with multimodality, and tools to analyze multimodality, the GRAPE MARS. So now let's see some applications to multimodal analysis using GRAPE MARS, and after that, we will have a look at the connection between multimodality and corpus linguistics. So I said before, our ultimate goal is to be able to apply our research to our classes. And we mainly teach in English for specific purposes, but we also collaborate with content teachers in English medium instruction. So that's where we try to make our pedagogical applications. We think that only by analyzing multimodally can we transfer this literacy, this competence to our students in the classroom. So I'm going to present two studies. The first one is by Elena Serrano, one of our most promising doctoral students. She made research on multimodal literacy in the pre-tertiary classroom and analyzed the potential of Instagram Reels as pedagogical tools.
I don't have no panties.
Well, I guess that you all know what an Instagram Reel is. Well, these are vertical videos, usually recorded with a mobile phone, and their duration is has an average of 1 minute approximately. And Instagram gives this definition, a new way to create and discover short, entertaining videos on Instagram. Well, we found that Reels is a new digital genre, which still needs to be defined, but it provides an digital literacy. It provides, and there's a need also of digital literacy to be able to produce this kind of video. It is authentic audiovisual material, and we think that it can be very motivating for students to use this kind of genre in the classroom. On the other hand, Elena chose travel as the topic of the reels she focused on, because it is a topic that appears in the common European reference of languages, the framework, and it also appears as a topic in the curricula of secondary education and the official School of Languages, which is an institution that we find also in Spain. It's a pre-tertiary institution where people can register. It's a public institution, and they can go there to learn languages. It was also good material to teach and to learn multimodal literacy. The objective of the research, or the objectives were, first of all, to make a multimodal gender analysis of 15 travel Instagram reels, and to analyze embodied modes, the filmic modes, and the engagement strategies that could be found in these reels. On the other hand, once the multimodal gender analysis was done, she found out if this kind of digital gender could be useful in the classroom. So she asked students to produce their own reels, and she made an analysis of those products. At the same time, she used a pre and post pedagogical application questionnaire to make an analysis of the impressions of the students. So for the multimodal gender analysis, she used the modal density taxonomy developed by Valeria Jurado and Bernard Mechaud, also members of GRAPE. In this study, they distinguish between embodied and filming modes. You can see the embodied and the filming modes, which we have spoken about before. And also the engagement strategies taxonomy, also developed by Bernard Mechaud and Valeria Jurado in a different study. These engagement strategies included dialogic involvement, emphasis, humor, control of responses, and attention getting. This is an example of what the study using the GRAPE MARS, the analysis consisted in. And these are some of her results. So in the embodied framework, she found that, well, almost all the time, there's somebody speaking, and there are very, very short pauses. There's a great use, a high use of prominence, and there's a lot of movement, so there are many actions going on. But these can only occur when people are shown in the video. So sometimes they are not, it's not always that people are shown in the video. Well, as for the filmic framework, voiceover is all the time. So you can hear voiceover almost all the time. There are subtitles, so there's written text that can be seen on screen, as in the example. There's some focus on touristic places that can be seen in the background, on people, and then sometimes on a particular object or item. And the type of shot is mainly the pan shot. This is the most often used shot, although there are other. As you can see, there's only 27% of the time. As for the engagement strategies, she found dialogic involvement, emphasis. You have some examples there. And then she also found several other engagement strategies in 62% of the time of the videos. The average length of the videos was 64 seconds, so a bit more than 1 minute. There were 41 cuts per minute as an average, and the number of words was 229 words per minute. So this gives us an idea of the frequency, apart from the density. As for the pedagogical application, so she used the reels to foster digital and multimodal literacy in these pre-tertiary English as a foreign language students. As I said before, this was implemented in the official School of Languages in here in Castelló. 15 students participated. They had a B2 level according to the Common European Framework of Reference. And the course was mainly focused on oral skills. She also found that there was a great diversity in profiles, in the profiles of the students. So some of them were younger than others. So she looked at the students' product analysis and then at the questionnaires before and after the pedagogical application, and she carried out a quantitative and a qualitative study. This is how the implementation phase looked like, and then the analysis phase. So she took 3 sessions to do it, including time for the pre-task Google form and the post-task Google form. In the first session, she explained about multimodality and about what travel Instagram reels were and their characteristics. And then she made, she distributed a script with a checklist of the main modes and engagement strategies that could be found in one of these reels. In the second session, students had to record their own reel, and they were taught how to edit videos, and they did the editing. And finally, in the third session, the videos were shown, and there was the post-task Google form they had to fill in. And then she carried out the analysis of the videos and then of the forms. Well, the conclusions she reached was that, well, Instagram Reels is novel genre, and it's very attractive for students, especially young students and teenagers. Well, embodied and filming modes are essential to convey meaning and create engagement in travel Instagram Reels, and there is a variety of modes, of embodied modes and filmic modes used, and also engagement strategies that are closely related to the use of these modes. So travel Instagram Reels can be used to foster digital and multimodal literacy in English as a foreign language pre-tertiary context through a multimodal genre pedagogy. Students become aware and also implement multimodal and digital aspects of the genre. And at the same time, they practice English through the understanding of this genre. Well, the second study is different. This has been, it was presented by Juan Carlos Palmera and myself in the past AELFE conference now in September. And it's based on case studies in a business English master program. So what do we understand by case studies? Well, a case study is a project-based activity in which a group of students puts into practice what they have previously learned. In the master, where we focused our research, the case studies is a subject in which students need to create a business problem. So they create the problem and they solve it by means of the elaboration of documents, letters, telephone conversations, presentations, meetings, etc., that they have learned how to produce in previous subjects. Well, we looked at assessment. We made that reflection on assessment. Well, up to now, the traditional summative assessment had been used for this type of case studies. So video, written text, presentations were assessed by means of rubrics. But when learning practices are using multimodality, it's weird, it's strange to revert to traditional assessment of individual genders. So it is necessary to analyze the whole construct to assess multimodal literacy. So in case studies, multimodal assessment of the process and the products to solve the situation was necessary. So the rubrics could help us with individual genders, but we thought it was good to have a look at what an analysis, multimodal analysis group using GRAPE MARS could contribute. So the objective of the study was to systematize the assessment of the oral performance of 3 groups of students taken in this university master, which has the title of English Language for International Trade, and specifically on the case studies, and also to prove the effectiveness of multimodal discourse analysis using GRAPE MARS for the assessment of case studies. So we focused on a fragment of our case studies, the part that is devoted to the product presentation, which is common to all 3 examples analyzed, and we use 1 or 2 videos. I will give you examples from the second one, for the second S-curve, from, well, that is the name students gave to the case study, cookies. And here we looked at 2 videos. One is the original video, because there were 3 students and we wanted to see the interaction there were between the students, and also a zoom-in video focusing only on the speaker. So for the multimodal analysis, we looked at this taxonomy. We look at the verbal and then the non-verbal modes. In this case, for the verbal modes, we used the structure and the language. And then for the non-verbal, we look at facial expression, prosodics, gestures, posture, and also the use of props. So here we can see how all the variables are presented, are shown in the program, and also the multimodal ensemble. So we see that students use a variety of resources, and they make meaning by combining all of them. Well, we look also at the analysis, and the analysis showed clearly that there were differences in the use of resources by the different groups. So here we see that there's a great use of language, but it's more or less distributed, except, well, maybe structure is not so important here, but the rest have more or less the same importance. So the conclusions we reached were that students make use of a variety of semiotic resources, which are presented in multimodal ensembles, though their effectiveness needs to be assessed and interpreted according to their coherence. So it's not enough to identify all the resources used, but they need to be shown by means of this analysis and see, and well, the interpretation of the ensemble, and see if it is coherent or not. Sometimes, for example, in the use of pauses, if there are too many pauses, that can have an impact on communication, but it can also be seen quite clearly in this kind of multimodal analysis. And multimodal discourse analysis and the use of GRAPE MARS can differentiate the performance of several groups of students and can be an alternative to more traditional ways of assessment. Now, the final question, which I think maybe is the one that you were looking for, especially if you do research in corpus linguistics. Well, I had to answer this question, and so what came to my mind was to look for studies that had been published in recognized journals of corpus linguistics. So I found this study in the International Journal of Corpus Linguistics, which is has been very recently published. And the title is Indicating Engagement in Online Workplace Meetings, the Role of Back-Channeling Head Nods. So maybe you know it, I don't know. Well, this is the abstract, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to read it. Well, what called my attention in this abstract was these parts. So the paper contributes to the understanding of the dynamics of indicators of engagement in multi-party communication online as evidenced by a corpus-based multimodal study. It showcases the importance of building naturally occurring spoken corpora that go beyond written transcription and include annotation of nonverbal behavior. This work focuses on incidence, frequency, position, and function of spoken and head nod back channels, exploring coordination and co-occurrence of these features in online talk. I found it really very interesting. And then they used Elan software. As you may remember, Elan was one of the programs that we used before creating GRAPE MARS. So there's a great possibility that there can be studies using the GRAPE MARS in corpus linguistics. It's important that, well, corpus linguistics analyzes large corpora, but maybe when you have found some pattern in these large corpora, maybe then it's time to look at what is providing the meaning there, if there's something else than just words. Well, I look a little bit more made a search of the names of the researchers that authored that article, and I found out that they had a project that's called Interactional Variation Online, and the aims of this project are to examine virtual workplace communication and by means of multimodal studies focusing on what is said and also on how it is said. Remember, this is what Gunter Kress said as I presented at the beginning of this speech. They analyze speech, intonation, facial expression, and accompanying gesture or gaze. And then they also aim at enabling future research into spoken language by developing appropriate technical protocols for capturing and analyzing interaction multimodally. This project, which finished in August, I think, got funding from 2 research councils from United Kingdom and Ireland. So there's some hope that there will be also funding for similar projects in the future. So as final remarks, multimodal discourse analysis, as we have seen, has many applications and can be especially useful in the classroom to prepare materials, to assess learning products, and especially digital video genders. GRAPE MARS is an advanced tool for multimodal discourse analysis, more user-friendly and more updating than other tools available. If we focus on these emerging digital gender, we will realize that they are multimodal and need to be analyzed considering their multimodal ensembles. So multimodal analysis can complement corpus linguistics when analyzing these digital and oral genders. And finally, I think we have to say that future artificial intelligence developments may improve. I think that we will see it in a few years, how it can improve MARS and other multimodal discourse analysis tools with the possibility of the automatic annotation. That is the automatic identification of gestures, which will allow the analysis of larger corpora and merge multimodal discourse analysis and corpus linguistics. So thank you very much for being there.
Okay, Inma, thank you so much for this super interesting talk and presentation. Okay, I have so many questions, but also questions in the Q&A question. By the way, it's a good time for anyone interested in sharing a comment or a question to do so right now. Remember, there is a question and answer box. This is what YouTubers do down there. So you should be able to find it. Okay, so we have a question about the type of, I think that maybe you can throw some light here, Inma. The first question is whether these can transcribe language varieties. I'm not sure. I don't think the tool actually transcribes languages, but the question is, can it transcribe local language varieties, or is it only something you can use with English?
Well, GRAPE MARS is quite new, I must say. So it needs a lot of practice by many people. Up to now, we have realized that, well, for English, it works quite well. We have not experimented with other languages, but we encourage people to do it. In the future, we intend to find some more funding and to keep it updating it. So one of the things we would like to do is to improve the artificial intelligence tool so that it offers more possibilities. But I encourage also the people who are participating to use it, so to use videos, to upload videos in other languages. I'm not sure that it will work with very local languages.
Okay, great. All right. Also, this is just a suggestion for anybody who is interested in this. Maybe it's a good idea to contact Inma's research team with your input. I'm sure that they will be very interested in listening to your experience with the tool, maybe other languages and specific analysis. There's another question here on translanguaging research. There is I suppose, a younger researcher here that wonders whether they could find this tool useful to use in multimodal conversation analysis.
Conversation analysis. Yes, of course. Well, there are many possibilities. For example, conversation analysis, it's good to have two videos because you can have the two persons speaking. If there are more than two persons, that becomes a little more difficult. But with two persons, it's possible. So you analyze the person who is speaking and also the reaction by the hearer, which can be very interesting. But it has to be, I mean, the analysis is the same. So, of course, they cannot speak at the same time. And the analysis has to be linear, to say it some way, okay? Then you can, because I think there was also another question, and the answer also answers this question. You can create your own tags, your own taxonomy. I recently presented a study which was a thematic analysis. So we identify themes, and so we tag the different things in the video, and from there, so we related the themes with the other variables. So you can tag whatever you want and relate. Of course, what we do is relate also the non-verbal modes. not only the verbal modes, but you can create your own taxonomy. There's no problem with that.
Okay, that's really helpful.
As languaging, for example, you can identify the parts that where you find translanguaging and see what the non-verbal modes are. If there's a different, so if the speaker behaves in a different way when she or he speaks in another language, for example.
Okay, and Inma, just to make it clear, the tool is available and anybody can use it.
Mm-hmm. If you have Google Chrome. I know that can be a problem with people in some countries in the world where Google is not available, but well, it has been created in that way. So if you have access to Google, it's freely available for everyone.
Okay, all right, thank you. Another question here is whether the tool is suitable for collaborative projects. So I suppose the question is whether collaborative annotation is possible.
Okay, what we have done so far is you download the project to your computer. So the project is yours. And then what you can do is to zip it and send it to another researcher who can continue doing the tagging in their own computer. So they can download it to the program and they can continue tagging.
Okay, I see. Okay, so another question. Does the software apply statistical techniques for assessing intercoding reliability?
Well, not the program, but as I said, you can export all the data to a program for statistical analysis.
Okay.
It's not included in the same program, but we thought that a good solution, we could not include everything in the program, but a good solution was to make all data exportable to any other program.
Brilliant. Can I ask you something about that? Can you potentially export that as an XML? Or is it mainly, as you said, Excel or CSV, SPS?
In principle, it's for Excel, SPSS, but it could be research. I'm not sure about that.
All right. Because I was thinking maybe
that's a question for improvement in the future.
Okay. Okay. I was thinking that for many of us in corpus linguistics.
One of my colleagues answered, yes, you could export it in XML.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. All right. Okay. So that is very helpful. That is really, really very helpful. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. What else? We also have questions on the, I think, on the chat box as well. Let me get back there. Oh, yeah. How many videos can we analyze with this tool at the same time?
Well, at the same time, two. But then you can have several projects. And then you can compare the several projects. But at the same time, the maximum number of videos you can analyze is two. More videos could be also difficult to analyze multimodally. So you have to think that when we analyze multimodally, we have to watch the video many, many times, look at the detail to see if the speaker has closed his or her eyes, if he or she is looking up, looking down, and at the same time, they are moving their hands and they are smiling, or so, and then the tone of voice. So there are many things that have to be analyzed at the same time. So more than two videos. And I said, usually when there are two videos, we can analyze how one person speaks and the other person reacts to that. But we're not analyzing at the same level.
And also, is there a limitation to the number of I suppose observations or annotations you can add?
Pardon? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, like if there is like a limitation, like a limit in terms of the number of I suppose tags or observations that you can add
In
to.
principle, there's not a limitation, but the more tags you add, the more complex it becomes. So if you see it's a video that is really very rich, then you can add a lot of tags. But maybe you would prefer to make different analysis. So within the same project, you can make different analysis. And then you can compare them, or you can complement them. But when you get a lot of tags, it becomes really very complex, and then it's difficult to interpret it. I mean, if you make, for example, a very complete and very complex linguistic analysis, and that you add the non-verbal questions in the same analysis, it may become really very complex.
Okay. Okay. We have another question here. Does it support multi-layer tagging? I suppose it does.
Yes, yes, of course. The tagging is very versatile. I mean, you can move the layers, you can move the tags, you can expand and reduce them. They can be overlapped. So it's very easy, and it's also very versatile. So there are many possibilities. I've been told also by my colleagues that well, in principle, the AI-based tool for transcription can work in different languages. What we are not sure about is if all the languages in the world. So we would have to check on that. 99 languages, Edgar said. So
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
languages you can work with.
Impressive. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, we are only beginning to scratch the surface in terms of how AI can help us, with our own maybe old research approaches. So I suppose it is a very exciting time to be a researcher. But also,
Well, I think so. We think so. We started with multimodal analysis, and in principle, we did, well, I personally started with multimodal analysis in 2005,
wow,
a long time ago, and I started doing it manually.
manually, yeah.
So time consuming. I watched videos 100 times, and it was very time consuming. So fortunately, then we found out about all these tools, which facilitated very much the work we are doing. And now we have been able to create this tool, which we think can help many people. And well, I encourage people to use it. And please give us or send us your feedback. We will appreciate it very much, because as I said, our intention is to keep it updated and to improve it as much as we can.
All right, great. Yeah, I think it's one of your project members suggests that it is Whisper, the
Yeah,
tool we're using for the transcription, which is a great tool, by the way. All right, so there's also somebody here that wants to know probably about other research with multimodal content, whether this has been used for other research areas like political discourse or social activism. So I suppose it's an open question about, just other areas where you are aware that the software has been used for multimodal annotation.
Well, there has been quite a lot of multimodal analysis carried out already. Well, there's a great variety, and we are seeing more and more multimodal analysis everywhere. I think last week I learned that there were studies, multimodal studies also in literature, for example, which is, I think, really interesting. Using GRAPE MARS, we don't know of any study of those studies like political discourse where they have used GRAPE MARS, but I encourage everyone to do it. I mean, political discourse is not usually one of the objectives in the research of GRAPE, but I encourage people to use GRAPE MARS for their own research because I'm sure that they will find it very useful.
Yep. Absolutely. We have another question here about this is a very specific question, I suppose. Just it's about how you guys go about I suppose looking at the coherence or the cohesion between the linguistic, the non-linguistic or paralinguistic information as you annotate along. So I suppose the question is about how do you sort of tally the different layers of annotation? So any insight from your perspective would be useful.
Well, interpretation is what the researcher does. So I guess that it's the same in corpus linguistics. So first you find the data, and then you interpret the data. From the data, we infer what the speaker wanted to express. In multimodal analysis, it's also very relevant to have a third party. I mean, to use some kind of ethnographic research. That is to have an interview with the speaker and check what you have interpreted from their speech, from their language. So that's what we usually do. We do the multimodal analysis. We have done multimodal analysis of lectures, for example, and then we have we had interviews with the lecturers, and we told them, look, you have done this gesture here, or you repeat this gesture all the time, and at the same time you have you highlight the word, you stress certain words. Well, first of all, we ask them, are you doing it on purpose? Well, very often they say, no, I had not realized, but yes, I wanted to emphasize that. So they are not doing it all on purpose, but they say that their intention was to emphasize. They don't use the modes on purpose very often, but they wanted to emphasize. Then we have found sometimes differences between when they speak, when they, I'm talking about English medium instruction, when they give a class in Spanish or in English. Or when they are teaching in English, they are paying attention also to the language. Although they say, no, I don't pay attention to the language, we see that there are several modes they are using that are reinforcing, or they are helping students to understand what they are saying. So, and they do that by means of language, by means of repetition, by means of pitch, by means of intonation, by means of gestures, by means of facial expression. So that is what we analyze. But we usually try to prove or to check our interpretation with that of the speaker whenever it is possible, of course.
Okay. I have one final question for you, Inma. What are the future plans for the tool and for your research team?
Well, that's something I said before. Well, we go on with the research using GRAPE MARS. Each of us sometimes take a different perspective or a different kind of sorry, of video to analyze. But in the future, we would like to improve it. We, of course, to use it and to get feedback from users so that we can improve it in the future. And if possible, to integrate that artificial intelligence with this automatic annotation, which can facilitate a lot getting the data of the videos. We know that there's already artificial intelligence that identifies some kinds of gestures, but it's not refined yet. I mean, there's still some development to be done. But in the future, we would like to go in that way, that is to incorporate some kind of or more artificial intelligence that can help researchers who use these GRAPE MARS.
Okay, well, that is a very exciting avenue, and we'll be there trying to see how that works in the near future. Okay, so I suppose it's time to finish this talk today. Inma, thank you so much.
Thank you.
There are tens and tens and tens of messages on the chat box saying thank you and how interesting your presentation was. So I'm really excited that you could share your research and your time with us today. And I want to thank everyone that showed up today. And just I want to remind you that we have another very interesting talk next week in this series. So Inma, thanks again for your time and for your generosity to share your research with us.
Thank
So
you.
everyone, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much again, Inma. See you soon.